Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to our first event for the Mackenzie Art Gallery's new Minecraft Artist in Residence. I'm Cat Bluemke.
I'm Jonathan Carroll.
And
That's me bouncing. That's me bouncing right now.
not the sticky keys.
This is me bouncing. I'm Jonathan Carroll.
And I'm Cat Bluemke, and we're both digital programs coordinators at the Mackenzie Art Gallery. Tonight, we're joined by our first Minecraft Artist in Residence, Cat Haines, for a virtual open studio event on the DAiR Gallery Studio server. Here I'm talking. We are also joined by you, our wonderful audience. As usual, you're encouraged to ask questions or make your comments in the live stream chat, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. The chat is located on the right-hand side of the video if you're watching this on a computer, or underneath the video for those watching on tablet or mobile devices. If you can't seem to be able to access the chat, make sure you're logged into your account on the platform that you're using to view the stream. And we welcome questions or comments at any time. And you can also use the chat to talk with other audience members. But as always, remember that there is another person at the end of that username, so please be respectful. As well, before we open the Open Studio event on this virtual landscape, we want to acknowledge that the land we are gathered on for this live stream, Treaty 4 territory, is the homeland of the Cree, the Saulteaux, the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota, and Métis people. You are gathered where you are.
This is the first live stream event on the DAiR Gallery server. We are going to be talking with our first artist in resident in Minecraft here, Cat Haines, about the work that they've done so far, working in the DAiR Gallery world. So if you would just come with us. So let me just switch my camera. Come with us. This is we are entering the Residency building, and I think we'll find Cat just within here. Hello?
Hello?
Is there anyone in there?
Hello?
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Good morning.
Hello. Good evening. How are you this evening? It's so lovely to see you in this residence building. This is so unexpected.
Yes, this is pretty impressive for us. The last time we were here, it was just the green grass. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you've been working on here?
Yeah, well, I'd love to start by maybe we could sit down and have some cake.
Oh yeah.
Or we could head upstairs.
Sure.
And upstairs is there's a little chest where you can find some refreshments if you're hungry or thirsty.
Oh yeah.
And there's a little table where we can have a conversation, but I'd really love to invite you outside where we can gaze upon this majestic labia and vulva and a little museum building. And maybe this is where we can start our tour.
Wonderful.
I must compliment you on this cookie is delicious.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I baked them earlier today. So I guess I think everybody must be curious about the giant looming vulva on the landscape, but I thought maybe we could share some history about some pussy art first. And so I've prepared this little gallery for us. And so in here are some examples of vulva and pussy art that have kind of inspired me. And I really want to talk about this one here, Own Your Cervix by Vanessa Dion Fletcher. She is an artist who came to one of my master's classes to talk about her work. And this was one of the pieces she talked about. And as part of this piece, it's really about the social and cultural production of gender, and she uses quills and I believe menstrual blood or imagery and a number of other mediums, including like really very European sort of glyphs and imagery, to talk about the constructedness of gender. But one of the parts of this installation that I really love is that there's a room that is set up to do your own cervical exam or self-vaginal exam. And the instructions for this really inspired me to investigate my own vagina, which I hadn't really done before. And as part of that, and kind of one of the challenges of this residency was to bring the real world to bear in the game, which I love. I'm hoping to photograph that and use that image to create textures for the outside and the inside of the vulva.
That's super interesting. As like I love this gallery where you're sort of dissecting this feminist art canon, specifically pussy art canon that some of us encounter in art school perhaps, and then also like more recent iterations. And I was wondering about like, what are you in your research, as you've been doing quite a bit of research in the residency, how are you sort of like learning or taking from or rejecting certain aspects of this like pussy art canon? Like you have the casting off my womb, and this is really like kind of focused on this aspect of like craft, and then also like vaginal centric artwork, also building on like earlier interior scroll earlier scroll works. I'm curious about how like as you're approaching this content, where you're kind of delving in and out of this history, and what is interesting here for you.
Yeah, it can be a really frustrating canon in history to work with. I think casting off my womb is a really good example where it really talks about the like softness of the vagina. It tries to get away from some of the vulgarity of it that we often associate with the vagina and the vulva, by tying it to this like soft craft and this very feminine labor. At the same time, this is like an undoubtedly very white perspective on, and it's a very it's an Australian artist who is working, I think, on that piece in the UK. So it's fairly Western centric in terms of body ideals and body narratives. I think this piece by I hope I don't say her name wrong, Rokuda Nishiko, is really interesting. So Rokuda Nishiko translates to up to no good girl, or good for nothing girl, and she's like using her vulva as inspiration for further art, and she's made dioramas out of molds of her vagina. And this particular project, I think, is really significant. In this project, she took a 3D scan of her vulva and then used it to print a sea kayak out of it. But as part of the project, she emailed the 3D scan of her vulva to a bunch of supporters from a crowdfund. And as a result, was arrested for 10 days and put in jail for obscenity laws. And so I think in the West, we have really progressed past the point of obscenity as it relates to the vulva and to the vagina, but we still haven't necessarily reached a point of acceptance. But there's this big divide between, this is a really good example of pussy art as an example of social protest and as an example of reclaiming the body, and a body that has been perceived as obscene. Versus, I think, if we come back to like, I don't know, Georgia O'Keeffe's flowers, which she kind of insists aren't about sexuality, but that's what we project on them. These are like very white, very Western notions of feminine sexuality, and it really constructs feminine sexuality around the genitals. And then to me, that's kind of where vulva and vagina and pussy art kind of falls apart and loses interest, is when we're really tightly constructing femininity around that body part.
We've got a comment that love that Vanessa Dion Fletcher was the first artist listed in the hashtag pussy art canon. That'll you're definitely going to get that trending.
That's great.
Yeah, speaking specifically about like this Western focus of, or perhaps like what like where we most see in like Western history this pussy art emerge. It kind of emerges from this like feminist art history of the 60s and 70s, alongside like when it was really, you know, when performance art using the body and using photography as an art medium was really popular. And it's kind of like they're kind of like running off one another. It's really interesting to me, like that those are particular feminists communicating ideas through their like the medium of their time, and now we're in Minecraft, we're using a different medium of representation altogether. What sort of like and we're talking about new ideas, and what I'm curious, like in a totally virtual and constructed world like this, such as Minecraft or other platforms that have emerged recently, what type of affordances do you see or do you find as a digital artist are available to you to explore some of these ideas, or perhaps just explore art in general?
Yeah, let's go back outside and let's take a look at that vulva again. And I'm gonna get really personal for a moment. I'm gonna share some aspects of my transition that I don't often talk about, but that I think are really useful and really fruitful to this conversation. So the vulva that I constructed is meant to be a large-scale replica of my surgically constructed genitals, is sort of how I have framed it. And I think in some ways it's kind of comical that this very voxelated, pixelated structure can bear a resemblance to human genitals, unless we sort of already know that is the intent. But I think one of the things that Minecraft has really afforded me has been a level of creativity and agency towards my body that through the process of transition wasn't necessarily given to me. And so the process to access bottom surgery is really, really invasive. It involves psychiatric consultations to make sure that you are quote unquote trans enough, to make sure that you are psychiatrically stable to be making that decision. And you need to do 2 of these assessments, in addition to a referral from your doctor, in addition to a referral to the surgeon, in addition to the surgeon's assessment, in addition to all of these different things. And throughout this whole process, you really lose a lot of agency. And I made a joke that wasn't really a joke to one of my partners who came with me to my surgery appointment, that I was like when I went for my bottom surgery, I was kind of expecting like a lookbook, and to be able to like flip through pages and pages of vulvas to pick the one that I wanted, or to pick the style that I wanted, or to pick features that I wanted. And of course, none of that happens. None of that is afforded to you. They just, they construct the vulva and the vagina that they consider to be ideal. and so this opportunity to construct this this voxelated vagina has really given me an opportunity to have some agency in the notion of like the construction of my genitals, which should have been to me something that I had like a lot of creative input into, but that's just not how it works. So yeah, that's a little bit about that, I guess. Some really personal details and stories.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Kat. I also love the imagery that it brings up, kind of like the hair salon.
Yeah, it should be like that.
It seems obvious. We figured this out for other parts of our world.
Yeah.
Yes. Shall we enter? Should we?
Yeah, we can go inside. I'd love to share some of the works that I'm doing inside.
I just turned the day on.
So. Yeah, so everyone can see. Wonderful. Well, here I go.
So this is a very work in progress.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm blocking Jonathan from the door.
Oh, I should be showing my attempts to get up more broadly. Okay.
Here we go.
So cool.
So the inside of this gallery is sort of a collection of images, mostly from my social media archive. They're not all imported yet, or all even taken yet. And accompanying each image is going to be, at the very least, a text and maybe an audio piece that goes with it, sort of depending on how the rest of the project progresses. I'm really excited about this piece, though, and I want to talk about this piece. So let's come over here.
Great.
This is my piece called Lesbian Wedding, and I think one of the reasons why I love it so much. Oh no, we lost.
Oh, sorry.
John crashed. I'm
my
still
client
here.
Just crashed.
Everyone should be able to hear us still.
Yes.
So we can.
Okay, we can wait. We can wait.
Yeah.
Wait for John to come back.
We've got a lot of. There's a lot of positivity in the chat right now. Lots of people.
Oh, that's so lovely to hear.
Yeah, I've Jen Virgin saying this is the best tour they've ever been on. Respectful Child tuning in and loving this so much. Nilin Lore.
Oh.
Oops, are we?
I've emerged. Oh, here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah,
here,
thanks
oh, wait,
all
sorry.
for watching.
Just jumped in the loading screen for a second.
We're almost there. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
hopefully it's not kicking me out again. Just as we were talking about the affordances of the digital, we are measured on by its limitations.
Mm-hmm. Almost.
If this kicks me out again,
here
yes.
we are.
Okay, sorry, back and
You're all set?
Yeah, ready to rumble.
Thank you, everybody.
I think so. This is an image from my wedding in 2012 with my wife Aviana. Love them to death. And I love this picture because it's kind of this like flip of the typical
Whoa.
Did Cat? No, Cat's still here.
Sorry, Cat.
We lost her audio. Can you hear us?
Sorry, folks. Just troubleshoot this real fast.
This like very form-fitting suit, which was very masculine at the time.
Sorry,
this is a picture.
Cat, something happened and your audio just started cutting out as soon as you started talking about the art.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm really.
do I have to go back to the beginning?
Unfortunately, yes. It was just as soon as you started saying getting going, it cut out.
Okay, let's try again.
Okay.
I love this piece because it's this piece about my wedding, and it's this piece about love and joy. And this image itself really flips like this heteronormative script of like the man looking into the camera and the girl kind of leaning into the man. And it's really flipped in this image, which I love. But also, this isn't a picture of a man and a woman. This is a picture of two women. And one of the things that I've done in the written piece of this is I've really thought about when you read and analyze the history of transness and of trans surgery, there's this notion that after surgery, you have to invent a new life and you need to invent a new backstory. And so within trans communities, there's a really strong notion of rewriting your history. And I think this is true both in terms of this explicit rewriting that some people choose to embark upon or are forced to embark upon, but also through this context of, you know, we can talk about like queer moments where like anybody, people who aren't necessarily queer, can have these moments that feel queer to them, that challenge their sexuality. And in the same way, we can have moments that are trans. And I didn't really come into my transness until my late 20s, until I met a trans person and realized that was possible. And when I did, that was life-changing and life-affirming for me. But, you know, since then, looking back on my history, there's all sorts of moments, and some of those are ones that I explore in this exhibit that are undoubtedly trans. And this picture is maybe one of them. I would like to suggest. And so one of the ideas that I take up in my written piece is, you know, if I can rewrite my history to be trans, can I rewrite my history to also be a lesbian history? And so I put forward this idea that the first lesbian wedding I attended was my own, and that I just didn't know it at the time. And I think that's a really beautiful notion. And it's something that really makes me a lot more comfortable with this image and with my wedding images in general, is this notion that like, yeah, I looked very different at the time, but if I think about how I loved my wife, and if I think about how I desired my wife and how we loved each other, you know, it was a really lesbian way of being in relation to one another, even before I knew I was a woman. And I opened that piece with, you know, I think I knew I was a lesbian before I knew I was a woman. And that's sort of like a provocative opening, I hope.
Yes, and we'll show the text here and the music note for the audience, and maybe if you could talk more, because perhaps some folks aren't as familiar with like how writing works within Minecraft. Could you talk a little bit about how your writing practice has specifically, like as you just completed your thesis defense today, you have a very succinct writing practice, but it must have changed in order to fit within the confines of Minecraft in some way, or evolved or adapted. We're walking the audience through the book as we're mentioning this. So.
It's a challenge to write in these books. It's a really different format. It's almost it's something a bit longer than tweets, but still not that long. And so it forces you to really break your writing. I mean, I initially started by writing in a Google Doc, which is where I do the majority of my writing, and transferred it to a book. And I found it didn't quite translate because the format of these books is so tight, the number of characters per line. I like it so that lines aren't too not misshapen, but like different lengths. I like for them to be nice and blocky. This fem piece, I think, is a piece that I actually wrote in Minecraft. And so maybe I'll read this because it works as a written word piece a bit, or a spoken word piece a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really written with the constraints of the Minecraft books in mind, because I wrote it in game. And it's about this notion of femme. So femme as in acrylic nails, a capitalist metaphor for a revolutionary identity. Applying acrylic nails. 1. Remove old nail polish. As a feminist, it is critical that we remove the veneer of the world and ensure we have a solid base upon which to build our work and our revolution. 2. Buff nails to rough the surface. Feminist and femme labor is often a grind, and like a grindstone, we are ground down ourselves in the process. 3. Apply and shape the nail forms. Being ground down and roughed up prepares us for this step, which is creative in that we take control of our desires and shape ourselves. 4. Apply the acrylic and let it dry. Wait until the acrylic is hardened, like the world hardens a femme, a feminist, a revolutionary. And recall this hardening is not all bad. It is something we desire. But what does it mean to be femme, to be a femme? And to echo artist and my partner, Jay Kovach, why femme and not simply woman? Simone de Beauvoir states that one is not born a woman, but becomes one. We can become women through a variety of paths, some conscious, some unconscious. But to become femme is always a conscious taking on of identity. And in this way, it is perhaps a form of transition. What does it mean to transition into femme, to become a femme? Is it the applying of makeup and nails, the fancying of one's hair? Is it the putting on of a tight dress and a jacket that means business? Or is it an attitude, the way we sit and exist within our bodies? If we transition into femme, we must be critical of how that transition is framed. Who has access to the technology of transition, and what happens when we narrowly define that transition and those technologies as purely physical, as purely aesthetic? For access to these specific technologies requires access to capital, and access to capital is not often something queer and trans people have. We often prioritize community over capital, at least the queerest among us. Perhaps it would be better to say femme as in my chewed up nails and fucking bleeding cuticles, an embodied metaphor that speaks to femme anxiety. Or femme as in help me escape this capitalist hellscape and fall into my butch lover's arms at night. Or femme as in the philosophy of anti-capitalist mutual aid as forwarded by my femme sex worker foremothers. To be femme is perhaps to situate a revolution against the patriarchy within our own bodies, but we must be careful of this revolution, for it is so often bound up in a white capitalist ideology. And if we find ourselves in femme only to lose ourselves in its potential whiteness, we end up propagating the racist violence of so many white feminist movements. We find ourselves, but at the expense of so many others. And that's not the kind of femme I want to be. What I found so interesting about writing this was how I kind of ebbed and flowed between genre a bit or format, but it was really about constraining the writing of a thought to a page, which was sort of an interesting exercise.
Yes, I really loved hearing it. There was something so interesting, and I think the audience can also hear it as well. The page turning as you were reading was
It's connected to the note block, right?
I might just leave the note block so they thump. It's like a
really
beat
nice
poet thing almost.
Yeah.
Indeed. There, just some appreciation from the comment section that they're beautiful words in a beautiful room.
Form.
Sorry, beautiful words in a beautiful form.
Beautiful room as well, but.
And then, other people appreciating the saying this is a powerful metaphor, appreciating that really awesome.
That's great.
You were making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in this, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Or just in this you've explored some of our audience, like perhaps they're not as familiar with Minecraft, but you've explored quite like a few different modes of creativity within Minecraft. Like you've had modes of creation, I could say, like there's the writing, there's the note block, there you have the picture frames. Are there, as well as you've built, of course, this entire space, which perhaps is one of the more obvious mechanics that come to mind when people are thinking of Minecraft. Are there other functions that you're interested in exploring? I know there's like the textiles option for creating. Oops, I keep setting off the block. Things that you're interested in pushing further through the tools of Minecraft.
Yeah, there's like a couple really subtle things. So I've used a language pack to rename a few blocks. So if you open up your search blocks item,
you put myself in creative mode first.
Oh yeah, you have to put yourself in creative mode. You can search for the vaginal cavity block.
Amazing.
Or the labia minora or majora block. And these are all blocks that are available to us in the game now. And these are just blocks that I've reskinned and renamed to kind of give a feel. I think one of the things I'm really interested in is the audio capabilities of Minecraft. And so I haven't explored it in this particular room, but I have in sort of another test environment. This idea of remapping this note block, so instead of just a bass note, it'll play a piece of audio or something. But what I'm most excited about is maybe if you'll follow me through here. This is the dance church. And this is intended to be an event space where a large audience could gather, maybe for an artist talk or something on the opening night of the performance. But if we skip our way upstairs to this little space up here, it's actually a DJ booth, and I'm really excited about the dance party we're going to host. That's going to be entirely based in Minecraft. We're going to use the resource pack to remap the songs of the music discs to custom music by trans women who make dance and electronic music. And I think it's going to be a really, really fun time.
That is happening
on, have we confirmed it for June 10th? I believe
June 10th, I think, is the goal.
Yes. So, folks in the chat, Thursday, June 10th in the evening, there will be a dance party here that you will be able to access the space. Mark it on your calendars.
It's tentatively called Pack the Pussy.
Yes.
We'll see how that goes with the marketing team.
We're calling it Pack the Pussy now. It's too late now. Amazing.
Julie says, Julie shouts out, Gemini season.
As well, there's
So maybe we can head back to the residence center and we can do some questions and answers.
Yeah, please. That's perfect timing. I think there's some folks in the chat who've been very talkative. So if you've got some questions for Cat, just type them out and we shall read them.
You gotta go close all the doors.
Yeah. I'll close mine behind me.
Oh, shall we show do you want to save the special part for the end?
Oh yeah, we should show the urethra. This is an anatomically correct
Where'd
vulva.
that cut, John? We gotta get
I think
framed.
no, you should go up and you should do the full experience yourself.
Oh, nice. Oops.
There's little signs that say break to pee.
Oh, I break the signs to pee. Right.
You break the signs.
It's beautiful.
This is the real, but the other cool intermediate experiments you're achieving are pretty cool, but this is the real innovation.
This is the real deal.
We're truly reinventing the wheel here. We've got some from Rebecca Haines. We've got, I think this is a question because it ends in a question mark. We've got this, they say transfuturism question mark and transpresentavism. Perhaps this is a word that you are more familiar with. I'm transpresentavism. So great. Maybe
Discord might have just frozen for a second. It seems like things keep catching on my. Sorry, Kat. We might have just frozen for a second, but we're back now.
No, that's okay.
Kat was just reading a question or a statement/question from Rebecca Haines, which was transfuturism, transpresentavism. So great.
Yeah, perhaps it's referencing some of your possible influences, or academic pursuits.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of transfuturisms, there's a really strong link to this idea of the creativity to build your own body. I think a lot of times transness is reduced to medical transition, and I want to be really careful not to do that. But I also think that one of the points I made in my thesis defense today was that trans activism is really a bodily and embodied activism. And it's about freeing bodies and embodiedness to be whatever state they need to be, or whatever state they want to be or desire to be. And I think this idea of crafting your own genitals is a really cool idea that we've seen in, I don't know, some video games recently that have maybe blundered it a bit. But this idea of a transfuturism of how can we craft our own bodies and embodied experiences if we want. But I also I really want to get away from this notion also that transness is about the body, and that's really what the stories inside of the vulva speak to, is this idea that transness is about our embodied histories and about our relations to each other and to ourselves. And it's not strictly a bodily relationship that can factor into it, but that there's so much more to it than just the body.
We have another question from Raphael, and they ask, what's your relationship to lesbian land art / separatism?
Oh. / attention, please. I have a really complicated relationship. I think my wife and my wife's family is a farming family, and we've dreamed the lesbian separatist, lesbian commune dream. But we've also had long, complex conversations about whether that is a just dream, whether it is a realistic dream in terms of our responsibilities as settlers on this land and as settlers who have inherited this land through unscrupulous means. And so I think there's a lot of idealism there. There's a lot of aspects of lesbian separatist communities that I would really like to idealize. But at the same time, I'm also cognizant of the fact that in order for society to change, we need to grow beyond these tight identity groups. And so it's something that I'm in a constant struggle with. It's something that I lean towards idealizing and that I am constantly trying to problematize because I know there's a lot of problems with that idea.
Another question from Nilin, who asks, are there other games other than Minecraft out there that you see as having a great tool set for the potential of radical trans queer creativity in gaming spaces or game worlds?
I'm going to talk about the games that I love. Can't really do this. And for me, this is really Animal Crossing.
Nice.
Animal Crossing for me has really become dress-up simulator. And I love it. I love collecting clothes in it. I love putting on fashion shows for my friends. It's this really creative way of expressing gender and of expressing desires and of expressing desired gendered expressions in this really quite broad and creative way. And I think about some other games that do a really good job of this, and a lot of them are like dating sims. So I'm going to give another shout out to my favorite trans sci-fi dating sim, Hard Coded, which really it doesn't necessarily let you explore your own self through like avatar creation, but it allows you to really explore your sexuality through your partner choice and through the decisions and the dialogue decisions that you make with your partners. And so I really enjoy that. And I think that's a really powerful mechanic and something I want to explore more.
That really, we have another question, just kind of jumping off of what you're saying with Animal Crossing. John asks, have you thought about this work, your work, in relation to the history of utopic dreams for gender freedom in online spaces?
I haven't really. I really position a lot of my academic and artist work right now as a provocation with 60s and 70s feminist lesbian art and theory. And we don't necessarily have the same visibility of trans art from that time, at least from my perspective. It's something that I haven't been exposed to, that I would love to be exposed to, that longer history, but that I just haven't had an opportunity to learn from. And I think, where was I going with this? I'm not sure. That's okay. We'll stop.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
This is just the first of, I think, many times that we'll get to visit everything that you're building here during your residency with the audience, with the people who want to visit as well. Do we know what the next opportunity we'll have to share Kat's work is going to be?
That is a good question.
I think the plan is April 15th, but that date might change if we're going to change it to be more accessible to European time zones as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we might have an additional event where folks are able to tune into a live stream such as this. I believe the opening of the exhibit where you will be able to log on to the exhibition server.
To actually visit the art in Minecraft the way it's meant to be seen.
I believe it is May 6th. And I am just double checking that to make sure that I'm not lying to the internet.
But
yes, Thursday, May 6th is, mark your calendars, folks, again. And also make sure you have a copy of the Java edition of Minecraft.
I think there is also some talk of hosting a workshop on building your own skins for Minecraft, talking about speaking of dress-up games. So we'll have more info on that definitely before the Pack the Pussy dance party.
Mm-hmm. And we're getting a lot of gratitude and thanks in the chat, Cat, to you for presenting your work so far. Is there anything you would like to tell the audience about the work, about your thoughts, about what might change, or anything before we sign off for today?
I think it's really just gonna, hopefully grow and get more exciting. If it's okay, can I give a pitch for an after party at 8:30 on Twitch?
Yes, oh yeah, great idea. That's awesome.
For this now?
Yes.
Like our after party? Yes.
Yeah, so there it is in the chat, twitch.tv/eclectic media.
Let's
I spelled it wrong.
That's okay. We're gonna write it in the chat.
We'll put it in the Facebook chat too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Trans Day of Visibility show, so it's an album release and like electronic music and dance and drag show. So
awesome.
It'd be very fun.
Amazing. I'm pretty sure I spelled. Looks like I spelled that right.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We can't wait to see you again at Ender Gallery. We hope you will join us
and Cat
in the after party.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Lovely. Thanks, everybody.